welcome back to the Aqua-Cultured channel. If you're just joining me, I'm in the middle of preparing my vessel for a haul out and then a trip down to the Florida Keys where I'm planning to spend at least a couple of months. On the last video, I did some upgrades and maintenance to my fuel and raw water cooling systems, and then on this video, I'll be servicing my anchor windlass and I'll be hauling the boat out for an out-of-water insurance survey and some more maintenance. And if you're enjoying these videos, help me out with giving me a thumbs up, leaving a comment, and of course subscribing if you haven't already done so. You can also follow me on Instagram at aqua_cultured, and you can get your very own Aqua-Cultured merchandise at aqua-cultured.com. Thank you so much for watching, and now let's get on with the projects.
Nope, you're gonna record. Alright, one of the next projects is up inside the anchor locker, which is a fun place to be. I've got my anchor windlass motor in here, and the field case, the motor case, is like super corroded, so I just disconnected all of the wires, and now I'm disconnecting the motor from the windlass assembly so I can get rid of as much of the rust as possible and hopefully paint it and make it look nice again and keep it from corroding away. And then we'll probably do an oil change as well. So we have last, thought the bolt was almost done. There's all sorts of rust falling all over the place. There's just two bolts holding it onto the windlass. I've already disconnected the battery cables.
The screen went black. What does that mean?
Nothing.
Oh.
Bolt. Alright. There it is. It looks nasty. It was so rusty and grody. Okay. The chain locker birthed me.
How heavy is that?
It's like 20 or 30 pounds. There she is. Nasty. Let's see if we can get it cleaned up.
So I just used a wire brush to knock all of the loose rust off, and then I used a product called Osfo, which neutralizes the rusting process, and then I painted the motor with an epoxy paint to make it look good again and protect it for many more years to come. While I was at it, I decided to perform an overall service of the above deck portion of the windlass. If you recall, this is a Maxwell 3500, and I don't believe it's ever been serviced. It's good practice to take apart all of the topside components annually to clean and re-grease so that your windlass works at its optimal performance at all times. The topside components are very straightforward to remove and reinstall, and you can easily find videos online on how to perform this process. You can easily have this job done in under an hour. Just make sure you take photos and or have a manual on hand so that you know how everything goes back together. While I had the topside components apart, it was time to drop the gearbox to perform its service. The gearbox had become one with the deck, so it took some persuasion to drop it down. Whoopsie! Let's check that out again. Don't worry, I did have a cushy towel down there to catch its fall in case this happened. Now with the gearbox removed, I can proceed with replacing the seals and changing the oil. This is the plastic sight glass that I'm unscrewing so that I can drain out the oil. The sight glass allows you to check the oil level. However, the unfortunate thing is that it's in a vertical orientation, and the only way to properly change the oil is by dropping the gearbox from the deck. The oil I use is SAE 90 gear oil. The manual recommends servicing the above deck components every 6 months, servicing the motor every 12 months, and then servicing the gearbox by replacing the seals and oil every 3 years. As mentioned, the above deck components are easy and straightforward to service, and Maxwell has a nice video on how to perform this task. I'll post a link to that video below. The motor is also relatively easy to service as well, and there really isn't much to do there other than make sure the terminals are clean and connections are tight, and take care of any rust, as I did by using OSFO and a fresh paint job. And even though the gearbox is a pain to drop down from the deck, it's a straightforward process to change its oil. However, changing the seals, mostly with the primary shaft seals, is not straightforward or easy, and Maxwell does not have an instructional video on how to perform the task. The manual is also not super helpful, and I was only able to find a couple of posts online from other cruisers that somewhat described the process. I ended up having to remove the main shaft seals by inserting a screw into the hard rubber and then prying the seals out by grabbing the screw with channel locks and pulling. It was not easy whatsoever. I was starting to think that when you want to replace the seals, it's best to just send it to Maxwell or a certified shop to perform that work. I did not record the seal replacement, unfortunately, since I was on the struggle bus and didn't bother to grab the camera. When it came to reinstalling the gearbox, it did take 2 people, one person above deck ready to thread in the bolts when I bench pressed the gearbox back up into place. That actually went surprisingly smooth. Again, apologies for not getting it on camera. I promise I'll get better at that. I then got everything back together topside, and this bad boy is ready for some anchoring. Alright, it's bright and early Monday morning. It is haul out day, so I'm getting things ready to go around the boat. The trip from slip to the yard is only going to take like 20 to 25 minutes, so that's nice and convenient. It's close. And so I'll get it hauled out today, check out the bottom condition. Tomorrow is my insurance survey, and I'm going to have some odds and ends done. May include a couple of things depending on what needs to be done and how much everything is going to cost. So we will see. It was a beautiful morning for the short 25-minute jaunt over to Sailor's Wharf. I made the appointments for the haul out and survey months in advance, so it was definitely a relief to get the boat operational just in time to make this date. However, my nerves were definitely elevated because when you get hauled out, things can escalate quickly when you find unexpected problems that require a lot of extra costly work that can royally screw your bank account and cruising plans. You always get a cost estimate prior to the haul out for the planned work, but you rarely stay within budget when it comes time to splash back in the water. On top of this, as you know, Florida just had a devastating hurricane, so I'm worried about how hard it will be and how much it will cost to renew my insurance this year. Also, I have a slip reservation down in the Keys that I do not want to change, so I am extra anxious for everything to come together as planned. This has been months in the making, so this is make it or break it time. And yes, I hauled out at Sailor's Wharf 3 years ago for the same survey and a bunch of work. It feels like it was just last year. If you missed that video, I'll post a link to it below so that you can see what I had done and how much it cost. I know that people always say that it's so nerve-wracking seeing their boat being lifted out of the water, but at Sailor's Wharf, I don't worry at all. These guys are pros and they haul and splash large vessels every day. The amazing thing to me, other than being able to lift a 45,000-pound boat with ease, is how big and awesome the boat looks sitting out of the water. Let's just take a moment to observe the robustness that is the DeFever 44. There happened to be a nice Nordhaven 41 right behind me. Right on time, first thing the next morning, Austin Miley of Miley Marine Surveying begun the surveying process. I've been using Austin and his father for years, even since I had my Californian. I will provide their contact information below as I highly recommend them. Austin began the survey with a hull sounding, in which he is looking for any soft spots or delamination. He will then go on to inspect and survey the rest of the vessel inside and out so that he can report on the overall physical condition and value of the vessel. Upon completion of the survey, Austin will create a thorough report that I will then give to my insurance broker for insurance renewal purposes. It's pretty much a report card for your boat. With the survey complete and no resulting major issues found, it was time to move on with the out-of-water projects. It will be a few days until they can start the bottom paint job, so a few simple items were addressed during this time. Keep in mind, this is a full-service yard in which I'm not allowed to perform any of this work myself due to insurance purposes. The first item was to replace the 4 through bolts that fasten the large grate to the hull for the raw water intake of my sea chest. A couple of the bolts were super corroded and were allowing water to seep into the boat. Next up was to install my freshly serviced Spurs line cutters to the prop shafts. These line cutters are designed to cut and shred any lines, nets, or other debris that could get entangled into my prop. And then next was to replace my Lumitech Sea Blaze underwater lights. My current lights were purchased secondhand from a friend and were on their way out. I upgraded to the newer generation of Sea Blaze lights that can alternate between blue and white. Now on to the bottom paint. This is probably the last time that I just simply get a standard bottom job, since the hull now has many layers of old paint and is just about due to strip it all off and get down to the gel coat to start fresh. Also, if you didn't notice, the hull does have blisters. A blister is when water makes it through the gel coat layer and forms a raised bump. They are quite common on older vessels, and although they can create a structural problem, they rarely do so. At this time, they are not a structural threat, and I do not have the time nor money to deal with the blister repairs, so that will just have to be addressed in a future haul out. The yard tech went ahead and sanded the hull, epoxied any low points in the paint, and then proceeded to paint the hull, stabilizers, and running gear with Seahawk BioCop TF. There were a few rainy days, so things did get delayed a bit, but after about 2.5 weeks, the boat was ready to go back into the water, and they did a beauty of a job, I must say. Total costs at the yard were around $7,500, and then the survey I think was around $700 or $800. Just a bit behind schedule, but all in all, the plans have been a success, and now we head back to the home slip for a few days to prepare to finally throw the lines and head toward the beautiful Florida Keys. So make sure you're subscribed and you have that notification bell activated so that you don't miss the adventure to come. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all enjoying these videos, and if you are, please throw me a thumbs up, drop a comment, and tell all your friends to hop aboard. And remember, if you're not floating, you're sinking. So stay afloat, my friends, and I'll see you out there.
An appetite.
They attempted to catch what I think is a pygmy sperm whale. Could be wrong. Could be a little pilot whale. I don't know. But they tried to get it on a stretcher and didn't quite make it happen, so looks like they're attempting it again.